Okay. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were the sons born after the flood. The sons, and this is where we got to get this now. The sons of Japheth or Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tabul, right? And it goes on from there. Those names come up again in scripture, and they also show up on maps where we can tell where these people migrated to, which was they went north. Turkey, Russia, Spain, England, the Netherlands, Germany, specifically the Germanic areas. That's where they went. And as we look and allow scripture to speak, this becomes very clear. This is the very next verse. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. Need to read any more than that. Those other names show up also in scripture. But what you need to see here, the Ashkenaz Jews are the people that are occupying Jerusalem now. Okay? They are the people that are occupying Jerusalem now. Now, I'm going to show you, we've talked about this before, but I'm going to show you how they got there and who they are so we can settle this, and we'll move on after this. Okay, the Ashkenazi, it derives from the biblical figure of Ashkenaz, the first son of Gomer, son of Japheth, son of Noah, and a Japhetic patriarch in the table of nations. Genesis chapter 10 is the table of nations, right? You've got Japheth first, then Ham, Genesis 10, 6-20, and then Shem's lineage. All right? They're all listed there. And so the specific name, Ashkenaz, or where we get the Ashkenazi Jews, is listed there in scripture. Right? It's not a name that was made up or anything like that. Okay, here's another example. It's just another way of me showing you the exact same thing so that you can see the genealogical line. Tarshish shows up again in scripture. Madai shows up. Magog for sure. Gog and Magog, that's Russia and the Germanic area. Those names come up again. Okay? There's another thing, just showing you the same thing. The 7 sons of Japheth, all right? Ham and Shem. Jesus comes from Shem's line. And as I said, and will continue to show you, there's mixing between Ham and Shem constantly, to the point that many of the Jews that were in Spain had people believing that all Jews were just black. I'll get to that next week. Not get ahead of myself. Take your time, Jack. Take your time so this sinks in. All right, so this is the genealogical line. Under Gomer there, I know you can't see it, but it says Ashkenaz. Again. Now, whenever they show up in scripture, or someone from the territory where they're living, they're coming down to cause trouble in Israel. They're not in Shem's line. Jesus is directly coming from Shem's line, from the tribe of Judah, where we get the name Jew. The Ashkenaz Jews that are occupying Jerusalem right now are not in that line. Yes, as I've said many times before, from Noah, they possess the specific Y chromosome that is connected to the Jewish family. Because they're in the group. But Jesus does not directly descend from them. Now, I probably should have pulled up a surprise face, jaw-dropping face. If you're new, I do that every once in a while so people have a chance to assimilate and accommodate the information that I've given them and just get a pause. right? This is common to me, but it's not necessarily to you. Because you haven't been studying this for 30 years, and I need to be patient as I introduce this. They are not in a genealogical line. Now, not trying to say anything bad about rabbis or anything like that, just telling the truth. When they run out of story, they always say tradition says. I don't need tradition. I have the Bible and I have scientific DNA evidence to prove everything that I'm saying to you. When the Ashkenazi or the people in Gog and Magog, when those people are mentioned, when the people that are in, the Jews that are in Ukraine, the Jews that are in Russia, the Jews that are in the entire Germanic area, when they are mentioned in Scripture, they're causing trouble to Israel. Matter of fact, the verse that I just showed you, God says, tell them to pick up their arms. Come on down here. I'm going to prove to these people that I've got Israel's back, that I'm God. I'm going to show them who I am. They're not part of the family. It's not one of those situations where he's teaching Israel a lesson. They're outside, and he's saying, let them come on in so I can show them who I really am. This is the area where they were living. All right? And they're still there. One of the reasons Hitler was able to commit his awful atrocities with 6 million Jews is because they were living there. Not because they migrated, I'm going to show you in a second, not because they migrated in AD 70 with what Jesus predicted in Matthew chapter 24, not because they left during that period of time. They weren't there. I think they left at the Tower of Babel. What I do know is since they're not in Shem's line, they definitely weren't a part of the Exodus. They weren't there to be a part of it. They weren't in the genealogical line to be a part of it. Okay? Now I'm going to do something I don't like to do as we move into this next little section. And that is that I don't like showing images of what you've already been used to because it's easy to trigger your thinking as I'm trying to put things into your memory, right? An image is 60 times faster than words. It has an impact. I shared with you before, side note but important, I shared with you before that when a country is conquered, giving credit to Roland Martin for this, when a country is taken over, the first thing that they take are the guns. The second thing that they go for is not the money. It's whatever form of media they have. Because whoever controls the story, the narrative, whoever controls that can tell you how the story's going to be told. It's just like it's hard to find where a king ruler may have been defeated in battle. It's hard to find where they talk about having been defeated. They're controlling the story. They're only going to make themselves look good. So it's just important to know that it kind of works that way. And so that's how we've had so many lies for so long. And what I am attempting to do is I want to show you some things, but I also want you to I don't want you to get caught up in this the wrong way. All right. So there are many famous Jews, Jewish people that, have done great things. None of this is to take any of that away from anyone. I need you to understand that because I just said some heavy things and I want to make sure. Wonder Woman, who's actually taken from African warrior women, that's a story for another time, but that's what it is. Same thing with the X-Men, Magneto and Professor, can't think of his name right now. It was Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Now, these are the words of Stan Lee, that's where he got that from. Part of the civil rights movement, when he created that. I believe it was 1963. That's extraneous as well. Moving on. But the only point that I'm trying to make here is that there are many great Einstein, other great Jews that have done wonderful things in the world that we live in and are still doing great things. So I just wanted to make a point. However, I need you to understand that the point that I am making, that these people, Jesus is not a direct descendant of any of them. So let me tell you how that happened. Sorry, that tastes so good, I just can't leave it alone. Okay, so World War II ends, and 1 million Jews are displaced. That bottom picture, even though it's not clear, that's the Germanic area, but we're talking about Hungary and other places like that, where the Jews are living as refugees. 1 million of them. They don't want to. Some of their villages, towns, whatever, were decimated. There's nothing there, and they don't want to go back to rebuild. Understandable. Well, America has an immigration policy of only taking in 5% of people per year, 5% of immigrants. And England has the same thing. Britain says 5%. So they've got to come up with a solution. So 100,000 of them try to go to Jerusalem. Try to go to Jerusalem, claiming that they're moving back in. They weren't, but anyway, we've already talked a little bit about that. They try to go back to Jerusalem, and they get turned away, and they're taken off to Crete, I believe it is, or yeah. Anyway, they don't get to stay there. 100,000 of them moved out on a ship, and so Harry Truman says to England, "Look, you control that territory. Give them land." Right? And so a part of what they do is they come up with, and I apologize for the redundancy of going back over this, but it's very important. I want to settle for you how they got to Jerusalem, that they weren't connected genealogically, number one, but how they ended up there in Jerusalem anyway. So they go in, the land's going to be parsed off. That's what that top picture is next to me. Land's going to be parsed off. There's going to be a partition where the Palestinians have an area they can live in and Jews have an area they can live in. The issue, though, is that in order to pull that off, 700,000 Palestinians had to be displaced. I've got pictures of them walking along the road with nowhere to go in mass numbers. There's some other stories around it. I hope that you when you're watching this on YouTube, that you'll pause it, right? Get the name of that article that I had up there, and that you'll read that article. Don't just, read it. So you can hear the full story and follow exactly what happened, so that you don't continue to think in your mind that the Jews just came home and this is where they've always been or whatever it is. But to understand that until 1948, when they became a nation, until 1948, they were living in Europe, in the Germanic area, up in Russia. That's where they were living. But they weren't returning home. They were never in the family. They were never connected to Shem or Ham. Those two mixed because they stayed in the area. But they weren't connected. And you have to settle that in your mind and understand. Trying to find a nice way of saying this, because of the color of their skin, because they were lighter, it fit the narrative of making Jesus white. And because it fit that narrative, they were perfect to go in there and claim, we went through the Exodus and, escaped from Egypt and wandered in the wilderness for 40 years and all. They could not have. They were not there. They were not there. When scripture mentions where they were, it's the same as what I showed you on the map. They were not there. So here's the image that people are used to seeing. And that image reinforced having them in Jerusalem. Now we'll get into this. That's Caesar Borgia. We'll talk about that later. There's some theories around it. I've talked about it before. But these images of depicting Jesus as a white man. I even heard a song recently I mentioned to you where a guy was talking about when I see his brown hair and look into his green eyes. I mean, all of that kind of stuff, man. Come on, man. Come on. No accuracy. The Europeans weren't dominating that area. I'm going to show you that in just a second, but come on, man. Let me put this on. Let me do full screen with this. Nasser, who was ruling Egypt, I'm showing you this in another picture, makes this statement about fake Jews currently in Israel. He said that you will never be able to live here in peace because you left black and you came back white. See, there are people that know the story. They know what happened. They know the truth. They know the history. And one of the other reasons they can't live in peace is because they came and took the land. They said that the land was unoccupied. And that's not true. So who is it? Who is connected? That was around in AD 70 and their bloodline, since I'm saying they're black, who is it? Well, there are others in Africa. There are pockets that can make this claim, but the Lemba tribe, Lemba, can certainly make that claim. They have been DNA tested. There's a book. I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself, but let me throw this in. A man by the name of Tudor Parfit. Now that's one way the book looks, and my copy looks like this. Am I getting that on there good? Yeah, it looks like it. All right, and so the book proves that these folks were DNA tested, and not only do they have the specific Y chromosome that puts them in the Jewish family, but many of them have the specific DNA makeup that makes them a part of the Levitical priesthood. I mean, they're connected. And it's not somebody saying, well, tradition says, no. The Bible and science are not in disagreement. You with me? The Bible and science are not in disagreement. Let me give you a minute.